Hang on a second, that doesn't sound right, does it? What happens when you put classical nylon strings on a steel string electroacoustic guitar? I know most of you will say,
don't do it, it's a complete waste of time, just buy a classical guitar, it sounds crap, blah blah blah.
But today, as always, I'm ignoring that advice because I'm bored, it's raining outside, and I just want to have fun. This could be either a really cool video or a complete disaster. Let's find out together. Hey everyone, welcome back to SoulString. Today we're doing something a little bit different, as you heard. I'm going to take this really cool Enya Sonic Go guitar, which is a electroacoustic basically. It has a load of DSP inside, but we're not going to use that today, and put some nylon strings on it. This really all started because lately I've really had this itch for a classical Spanish style guitar. I don't know why, but I've had it. I don't think I have either one, the money, or two, the space for another guitar in my collection. So let's try this instead. This experiment could go completely wrong. First of all, there's a couple of variables to bear in mind. One, this is not just a acoustic guitar, this is an electroacoustic guitar with a pickup inside. So putting nylon strings on here might affect the string vibrations and the way the sound is perceived by the electronic components. Two, and this is more of a practical thing, commonly nylon strings don't have the ball ends. So how the hell am I going to fit it to this kind of standard bridge? We'll work something out because that's what we do. And third of all, it might just sound terrible. The balance might be completely wrong between the strings. There could be potentially issues with the nut. I don't know. We'll find out. Hey, what's the worst that can happen? So I'm hoping that in the next few minutes of this video, you will find out, one, what actually happens to the sound when you change the strings from steel to nylon, whether it damages anything, any unexpected benefits or problems I've encountered, whether it's actually worth doing or just spending a couple $100 on a new guitar. But just before we start off with this video, why don't we talk one short second about the Enya Sonic Go. This is a fully carbon fiber guitar, so nuts, neck, the whole thing, body, which I kind of think fits reasonably well with our experiment. It has quite a standard steel string setup in terms of the nut width and the gauge of the strings currently on it. And finally, it also has an inbuilt sound system to amplify it. So you can use an app and choose various effects like chorus, delay, reverb, and through the sound hole, you'll hear the amplified sound because of the inbuilt speaker. So now that we've established our bass line, let me just show you how it sounds recorded straight into Reaper, and pay close attention to the tone, volume, and sustain, because these are the things we'll be comparing to directly once we change the strings. For our experiment, I decided to just go on Amazon and get a standard set of classical guitar strings. Here they are. They are Spanish nylon and silver wound normal tension strings. But before we make the switch, there are a few things that generally we need to consider within our kind of finding. In general, it is said that nylon strings such as these have about 40% less tension than the equivalent steel strings. Nylon strings are also generally slightly thicker than steel strings, so any issues with the nut there? Three, as we mentioned in the intro, they attach differently to the bridge commonly. There also exist the ones with the ball ends, but that would have been too easy, so I decided to go the hard way. And finally, just remember, nylon strings take a little longer to stretch out and to get in tune. So I'm hoping in terms of tuning, this won't be a complete disaster. So having said all that, let's get those steel strings off and let's get these babies on and hope the world doesn't explode. So let me first of all just get my little kits of stuff here. You can tell I'm a pro, can't you? The heckity heck is this? Oh yeah, there you go. So first of all, let me get my tools together. Let's put this here and let's start taking these babies off. Whoa, I'm kind of scared actually. Okay, now one of the great things about having a fully carbon fiber guitar is that normally on a lot of these acoustics, the neck will start moving as soon as you kind of take the strings off. This one, not so much, because it's carbon fiber, so hopefully should help. Now let's start taking these bad boys off. 1, 2. Now let's take these annoying little pins out. One of them is out. These were D'Addario strings, pretty good actually. Whew, I'm tired. Okay, managed to get it all done. So everything's removed. We'll give the guitar a bit of a wipe down before we put the new strings on, and let's do it. Overall, I'm hoping we're halfway there. Now, as I said, one of the issues we're gonna have is there's no bloody bowl ends. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, 2 ways of doing this. Either we do a nice knot at the end so it catches underneath the bridge pin, or we can try and simply reuse this. Shall we try with the knot first? Let's try with the double knot. I have no idea how we're gonna do this. It's not quite a fisherman's knot, but no idea what a fisherman's knot is, to be honest. Come on, you bastard, get in there. This is not going well. I should have gotten the ones with the bowl end. Bollocks! That was a complete disaster. What do you think? Do you think that's gonna be enough? Let's try it out. Hey, for the moment, that works. Now, I've got to be honest, what I'm really scared about is when we bring this back up to tension and the whole thing's gonna explode in my face. But hey, makes good YouTube, doesn't it? So I'm gonna try and do this properly. No, wrong way. I wanna give it a few extra turns. Okay guys, here we are. The strings have all been fitted, and for the moment, they haven't popped out and killed me. So I'll take that as a win. A few observations on the tricky bits that I found. So first of all, obviously dealing with nylon strings with no ball ends at the end, it wasn't the easiest thing to have to put it in the bridge. I dealt with it by doing a couple of knots in each of the strings so it wouldn't pop out the end, and it seems for the moment, fingers crossed, to be holding quite well. A second tricky bit, which I found is quite different to your steel strings, is the top here. I found that these nylon ones, they tend to slip quite often. And so I did a knot before winding them up. Hopefully, again, there won't be too much slippage, but we'll have to see. Now, finally, one extra observation. It is incredible how these nylon strings are quite a bit thicker than your traditional steel strings. Hopefully, this nut is wide enough for it, but we'll have to see. So now all we've got to do is play it and see what it sounds like. Holy crap! That is a lot better than I expected. It's incredible how the string tension feels different, almost too easy to play. It slips around, so very interesting in terms of feel. One of the things that surprised me, however, on the other hand, is that the volume difference isn't that much. I was expecting a lot lower volume. I was expecting a lot quieter. Already this guitar isn't made to project particularly well. It's supposed to be an electric acoustic, and it's supposed to be using, obviously, the speaker. So by itself, it doesn't project a lot. But I've got to say, amplified, I don't notice any massive difference in terms of how the system picks up the strings. So that's a real bonus. Let's talk about the sound in a little more detail here. I'm going to play exactly the same thing as I did before and see if you can hear it. One of the immediate things that I can hear is not only the top 3 nylon strings have a rounder and softer sound to them, but also the 3 lower notes. The whole thing is a lot more mellow. Definitely responds differently, and the EQ, just by changing the strings, is, I want to say, completely different. Another super interesting thing is that the overall sustain of the top 3 strings is significantly lower. So the notes ring out for a shorter period of time. And I think that's quite normal on a classical Spanish instrument. And it's just a different style. Obviously, you're not going to bend as much as you would on a steel string acoustic. It's just different. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely something that will change the way you play. Another technical bit is that hammer-ons and pull-offs also feel very different and sound very different. It's a lot more subtle and it's quick. It plays fast, but it's different. And finally, another smaller detail, but which I find very interesting as well, is it does make the neck feel slightly cramped. So often with classical Spanish guitars, you will see that the neck is actually quite wide and flat. And that's because the strings are obviously slightly thicker. Now, when finger picking, that's really quite obvious that you need to just readjust both your right and left hand. Tiny change, but it does throw you off at first. Okay, guys, let's start wrapping this bad boy up. Let's talk about some surprising benefits. So first thing, obviously, look, this isn't a perfect solution, but you can kind of get that vibe going. And okay, it plays differently from a traditional instrument would. The neck is quite different traditionally on a steel string guitar than a classic nylon one, but you can get that vibe. And what did it cost me? $6 for the strings? So that's a cool benefit. Two, I actually think it sounds really cool on this Enya because you get an unconventional tone. It's a hybrid tone almost. It has some of the features of a nylon, but it also sounds slightly different. And I think obviously that's because of the guitar I chose to do it. And I did that on purpose because I think this is a really good guitar to experiment with. Number three, I've got to say nylon strings are super comfortable. The reduced tension, especially on the top 3 strings, on the high ones, it doesn't hurt as much, let's be honest. I'm sure, if you play 20 hours a day, it hurts just as much. And don't get all upset, you classical guitar players. But for me, just noodling around here, it's a nice, pleasant surprise. I kind of forgot how easy and painless it was to play. And finally, number 4, this became apparent when I recorded. I really like the extra dimension that it adds. It adds a very warm dimension to the sound, which I think in certain mixes will fit very well. You can blend it together with a steel string and see what happens. Interesting, it just adds a different color to your palette. It just makes things sound different and not all the same. And that's something that I'm quite into. So I guess overall, it didn't turn out to be the massive disaster I was anticipating. So after testing this out for a few hours today, I've got to say the tuning stability, now it's a little more fiddly. Another important warning though for you guys that like to bend, I was bending especially on this G string here, and maybe I overdid it, but the string popped out of the nut. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying before. The strings are a little thicker, so it's not sitting quite as deep in the nut. I haven't modified the nut, so it's maybe needs to be widened a little to ensure that doesn't happen when you bend. My last and final warning is this guitar didn't have this issue, but if you have an older instrument or something that is more prone to moving, then I can see how the different tension on the neck would change your relief, and you'd have to do a little adjustment of your truss rod. I think we should just briefly talk about who should try this and who should avoid this. I think definitely if you want to try this, it's a worthwhile experiment because one, if you have problems with your fingers, a lot of us have issues, arthritis, whatever it can be, this is definitely easier on the fingers. Two, as I said, in my case, if you don't want to buy a new instrument and you want to kind of modify or reuse something that you've got already and just want to do something fun, try it out and record with it. It's really inspiring, actually. Number 3, and I think this is an important one, if you're stuck in a rut, geez, try a different style. Often we kind of forget of flamenco, Spanish style guitar. Try it out because it could be really inspiring. Even if you're a metal dude, do some Yngwie on it, whatever, but it's really inspiring. Now, on the other side, obviously, there are certain people that I think wouldn't be happy with this setup. You're going to have to fiddle around with it. So if you're not happy doing that, then don't do it. You're going to have to potentially widen the nut slots. You're going to have to do that little bit of monkey business at the bridge. So if you don't want to get into that, just ignore this. And another point, for those that have a more traditional type of guitar, even electroacoustic, I will not guarantee that this will work in the same way. For example, if you have an old guitar where you have almost a standard pickup retroactively installed, it won't pick up those nylon strings. So overall, would I recommend this experiment? If you want to have fun and for the right reasons, absolutely yes, loads of fun. I enjoyed this. It creates a unique instrument with a unique sound. Just be prepared in case there are any drawbacks or you've got to revert to whatever was there before. But again, as I said, what do you have to lose? For me personally, this has been a really fun way to repurpose this guitar and do something a little different. When I get bored, I'll change it back. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this strange video, but let me hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever tried putting nylon strings on an acoustic or even an electric guitar? And if you want to see more silly videos like this one, then like, subscribe, do all that bullcrap. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go play some Spanish guitar. Hola. And be good. Please enjoy whatever you're doing. Be happy, love each other, and play lots of music. Have fun. Thank you, and see you guys later.